authentically. And this time we're having Mr. John. I think we've had twice of Mr. John, to Mr. John this year. So we're going to have another Mr. John, and we're going to begin. So I'm going to send him the link now, and then we will begin. So, okay, John. Okay, perfect. Okay. So this time we're going to be talking about effective. Okay. 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 Hello, sir. Okay, very good, very good. Thank you for joining us. Okay, I'm going to send him the link. I'm going to add him right now. Okay, perfect. Accept. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Hello, can you see me? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I can hear you. I can see you. I can feel you right now.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. I want to say a very big thank you for accepting my invitation. Very big thank you. Thank you so, so much.
I appreciate I I appreciate the invitation, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak and to share.
Thank you so much. So I'm briefly going to introduce you and then we will open the floor to you. So, um, Mr. John is a de-escalation officer, so helps with the escalating conflicts between people. And when I read through his profile, I realized that it was very important to have leaders like him to speak on this platform. So it's a great privilege to have him. So today we're going to be speaking about effective police work and building relationship with the citizen. And one of the reasons why is because I believe universally we have challenges with citizens and the police as well, where we hear of police brutality, mostly in the US sometimes. We hear of that in Nigeria as well. So it's something that, in as much as the work done is on the police, at the same time, citizens should also as well understand how to relate with them. So I spoke to Mr. John, and he will be speaking on the topic as we learn today. So I'm going to open the floor to Mr.
Yes.
John. He speaks and then ask questions later. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, this is a very, very tricky situation, and there are no easy answers, as you can imagine. Especially when you come from, for example, the world in Africa and Nigeria and so on. When you come from an area where there may be a history of political upheaval, political oppression, or religious upheaval, religious oppression, or even tribal. There's so many things that go into a situation, different cultures, and you find that in the United States too. Although we don't have necessarily the type of history where there's a lot of religious upheaval or political upheaval, but people are people, and there are things that they still remember in their core memories, either from they hear stories from their family or personal situations and stuff that they learn and experience. It becomes part of their core memory. It develops the person that they are. And if they are unable to reach that point where they can just let the past be the past and recognize that they themselves right now have an opportunity to make a difference, well, then people continue to carry hate and anger and frustration. And there's no easy answer, but it takes a handful of people to start making that change right now for themselves. And one of the things I had to learn as a police officer is I can't rescue everyone, I can't change everyone, I can't save everyone, but I can plant the seed to let people understand that, number one, not all police are bad, not all police are out to get you, that there are good people who really care enough to make a difference in their community, for their country. That's why people become dentists, doctors, lawyers. That's why people become podcasters like you. They want to make a difference, and this is the gifting that they have, and they want to take advantage of it. Well, likewise, there are people who care enough that they are willing to risk their lives to be police officers, to risk their lives for strangers, because they believe in a higher calling to make a difference. Yes, there are bad people out there. If you are a human being on this planet, you are at risk of falling to temptation, to jealousy, to greed. Yes, there are people like that. But at the same time, if all you watch is the stuff on social media and the media, all you see is a negativity. It's going to make you think that there's nothing but negativity out there, and that's not true. There is some good out there, and there's some really amazing people out there who just want to try to do what they can to make a difference and help other people. But it can be very, very challenging and difficult for the police when they deal with the public that already mistrusts them. It can be very, very tricky. And so I had to learn that I cannot make you trust me in the 5-10 minutes that I have you. But if I treat you with dignity and respect, despite how you're treating me, hopefully I can plant the seed that later, when there's some quiet time and you're thinking about our interaction, you can say, you know what, I was a real mean person, but that officer, he did not disrespect me. He was not rude to me. And really, I was the one who was, you know, loud and rude and obnoxious. And maybe, just maybe, that seed I planted in someone's life can help make a difference. And I can tell you that in my career, I do have some postcards and letters in my basement. I have had people reach out to me and just thank me for having made a difference in their life. And I'm going to get emotional now because that is such a rare thing in a police officer's life to get. Hey, you know what, John? Thank you for helping me. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that. And again, for someone like me who just wanted to help make a difference, it's powerful because, and especially in this day and age, police officers everywhere in the United States, in Africa, everywhere, it's tough because you deal with people on their worst day. I can't tell you how many times I have dealt with the situation and people, neighbors and other family will come up to me and say, hey, officer, I just want you to know that he and she is not normally like this. This is only because they are drunk.
Wow.
Well, there's part of the problem. You know, they're drinking too much, but that doesn't change the fact that they're doing something that's dangerous or unhealthy or against the law. And so the police get involved. And I recognize that, hey, this is maybe not them on a normal good day, but right now this is what I'm dealing with, and I'm doing the best I can. And, you know, someone who has mental illness, I understand you have mental illness, but if you're a danger to yourself or to the public, I need to grab onto you. I need to do something to save you. And you know, it can be very, very tricky. And there's a lot of pressure put on the police to always do the right thing, say the right thing. But you know, my friend, civilians have a responsibility to obey the law, to be civic-minded, and to just treat each other with respect also. You know, and here's 3 concepts I want to share with everyone. And if everyone followed these 3 concepts, I think it would de-escalate 99% of the issues. Number 1, be nice. Be nice. Number 2, agree to disagree. And number 3, just walk away. There's no law, right? There is no law, rule, obligation, policy, procedure that says you must stay engaged and argue with someone who has a difference of opinion. Just walk away. Why stay engaged with a person or a situation that disagrees with you or is being loud and rude? Because all that does is it sets you up to get frustrated, offended, impatient, and then you start raising your voice, and then it just falls apart. You know, you've got to be able to say, you know what, I respect you, I disagree with you, let's go have a drink. Let's just call it good. There's no reason that we have to argue. There was a time when people used to agree to disagree and they were still friends. And now lately you see what happened all over the world. People just gone crazy. Just gone crazy. So that's my initial spiel. I don't know if you got any questions out of that.
Really, I'm really impressed because of I'm going to try to narrate an experience I had here in Africa. We had police brutality where police had to use different means to actually calm the situation on ground. And that day, I was outside that night. I couldn't fight. I couldn't protest along with people because I had a different notion about what it means to protest. So what I did was to go there. For those who were injured, those who were inhaling the tear gas and all that, just to take them away from that side and find a way to actually help them. So I know how it feels like, and knowing that we have men like you, leaders like you, who still want to still be nice even when the situation is actually tough. So the question is this: is how do we teach citizens, especially when it comes to situation where we have religious, so like let's say a religious pluralist nation like Nigeria, where we have people who have different notions about, and people have to play the role, police have to play the role as being the police, whatever region you're into. How do you manage such situation when it's more of like a religious conflict in such a situation like that?
You know, a lot of this begins at home. Talking about, again, there's no easy answer, but a lot of issues begin at home. When you teach young people, if you don't bring them up and teach them young, look, 30 years ago, this tribe or this government or this police department or this army or this country did something bad, but that was 30 years ago. Now we have an opportunity to make a difference. If children are not brought up to recognize they can make a difference, they will continue that hate and frustration and resentment, problems from their grandparents, from their parents. It begins at home. For police officers and the military and the ruling party and so forth, they need to try to promote that message. Hey, folks, I can't change the past, but we can change today and tomorrow. We need to shake our hands. We need to put down our swords and make plows out of them and work together. But if people keep bringing up the past, and they keep hanging on to hate and anger. Now, I'll share with you a personal experience. It's a small microcosm of an example. About 20 years ago, I went through an ugly divorce. For many years, I held on to every copy of every email, all this stuff that I wanted to show one day as proof of the type of problem I was dealing with. But I realized when I met my current wife that by hanging on to all those emails and all that stuff, I was actually hanging on to hate and anger and frustration. And with my wife, we went out there to my buddy's property, we dug a hole, and I burned 2 large garbage bags full of papers and emails. And my friend, even as I was doing it, there was a part of me that, I should save this. Oh, I should save this. And I said, no, I've got to let it go, because as long as I hang on to hate and anger for another woman from 20 years ago, the relationship I have now with my wife could not be the same. That is a small microcosm of a bigger issue. How can we get the public to become friends and trust the law enforcement, the police again, the people, good people who really want to make a difference? They have a strong sense of right and wrong and justice. Criminals should be apprehended and put in jail. Justice should, innocent victims should find justice. They want to be part of that healing. They want to make a difference. But in countries where governments have used the police to subjugate people, dictatorships, it creates a really ugly memory in the public, and it's very difficult to get past that. And then as you're growing up and you tell yourself, yes, I want to make a difference, but then you experience or see something, it brings it back. And I know it can be very, very challenging, because I see young people here in America, they hear these negative stories from their parents, their grandparents, their cousin. But they want to make a difference. They want to believe that's their problem, that they have different experiences, but then they see or hear something on TV or social media, and it brings it all back, and it's very difficult not to have an emotional reaction to it. And so I say, my friend, it can be done, but it's very challenging. But it takes each person individually to say, no, I'm not going to allow myself to be filled with hate and anger. I will make a difference. And you just have to trust that there are other people like you. But if all you do is hang out with other people full of hate and anger and frustration, then that's all you're going to feed yourself. And so again, there's no easy story, no easy answer, but it begins at home. What we teach our children, and it begins with tone of voice. For example, I'll just give you an example. Your father couldn't make it. He sent you flowers on a card. Your father couldn't make it. All he sent were flowers and a card. And just by changing your tone of voice, you can make something good, a father sending flowers and a card because he couldn't go to the party, into something bad by changing your tone of voice. You could have said, hey, honey, your dad couldn't make it. He sent flowers and a card. Or you can change your tone of voice and make it sound bad. Your dad couldn't make it. All he sent were flowers and a card. And by changing your tone of voice, you can make someone, you can affect and influence and manipulate a young child's interpretation of the world around it. And that's why I'm saying it begins at home. And it begins with parents, and it begins with adults saying to themselves, no, I can help my future generation make a difference, but it begins with me helping my young children, my grandchildren, start thinking positively. And as long as you focus on the positive message that you have, it will help you get past those moments and those days where you run into something negative that threatens to make you just think, you know what, the heck with it. I hate the police. They're all negative. They're all susceptible to bribery. They're all susceptible to fraud. Yes, it's out there, but there are also some good people who just want to make a difference.
Wow. 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 Okay. I have two questions before I forget them. Okay. The two questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, while you were talking, I could feel I was almost getting very emotional. I wanted to actually cry. You know, that's because of it's more like a situation where we face here in Africa as a whole, where we have political leaders in government using the police instead of being an independent body to face things realistically for their selfish interests. And we see a lot of young people replicating these things in the university, in college, in the high school. We see these things. So now it is very hard because of it's more like the bad is really clouded the good. So people think it is impossible to really let the good actually have its way as well too. So what advice would you give to young people? What do you think the hope of the policing system would be in the years to come with the present situation of it right now? Do you think it's going to get better? Because I think young people like me want to get hope. I want to be hopeful that, you know, in the years to come, my great grandchildren will know that, okay, there will be a hope of a better police system and the relationship with the citizen. Is there hope to it, looking at it globally from perspective?
Absolutely. And this is where I give the example, you planting the seed of hope and you raise your grandchild correctly. Someone out there right now watching us probably has a grandchild who will make a difference in Nigeria. Who could probably be the next UN Secretary General. But it begins at home and planting those seeds now. Yes, there will be dark times. Yes, there will be. And here's the other issue. Young people who, when they suddenly lose hope, they may decide that the only way they can get through in life is to join the police in a negative manner, because that's the only thing they see with people who have cars and money and opportunity, is to join the system. But you can join the system and start making changes on the inside, and you've got to just hang on to that. And really the thing that I can only encourage young people and even adults and older people today is just hang on to that light. The light at the end of the tunnel is not necessarily an oncoming train. It is an end of the darkness, and you just have to stay focused on it and keep going in that direction. And every time something happens in life that is disappointing and heart-wrenching and tragic, and you get bumped off the main track, look up again for that light and keep going in that direction, and bring as many people with you, your family, your friends, and say, you know what, folks, this sucked, but you know what, there is a better day coming if we keep going in that direction. Because if we become stagnant in one place full of hate, anger, then that's all you do, is you stay in one place full of hate, anger, and frustration. And I've had good days and bad days also. I'm a human being. Like I said, I may have had different opportunities than some people, but that doesn't mean my life was perfect. I've had my heart broken. I've lost jobs. I've had bills that I've had to pay and with no income. I've been there. I've been sick. I know frustration. Maybe not to the degree of some people, but pain is pain. Disappointment is disappointment. You know, my disappointment is still disappointment. Frustration is frustration. Stress is stress. This is why you see people, multimillionaires, go jump off a building because of something that you would consider so minute, but to them it was a major stress. Stress is stress. How it comes into some person's life is really irrelevant. It's how they perceive the situation and so on. But moving forward again, talking about trying to make a difference when you have authoritarian governments that use the military, that use the police, it can be very, very tricky. And that goes back to, well, maybe we need to try to vote, if you have the opportunity to try to vote in leaders that hopefully will fulfill their promises, because there's always that joke, and it's part of it is serious, that politicians will say anything to get voted on, right? But hopefully, and again, it goes back to, not all politicians are bad. Some of them, that's their gifting, to try to make some changes in that arena. Try to vote good people in. There's so many things that you can do, a culture can do, a community can do. There's no one easy answer. There's no one easy solution. It's multiple faceted, multiple solutions, multiple ideas, and it takes working together. It doesn't matter if that other person is from another tribe. They have a good idea. Trust me, there are good people from across the board, and if people can come together and say, doggone it, we are Nigerians. We are not, whatever tribe, Kikuyu, Maasai, whatever. That is our background, but we are now Nigerians. Let's work together.
Wow. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think I'm going to go. I'm actually going to go a little bit. Let's say interpersonal relationship is an intrapersonal relationship as well in organizations. And I'm in a university right now, and one of the challenges which I experience is how to coexist with people with different interests. So, let's put, for example, I have an interest of having to actually empower people, and somehow the other party also has the same interest. But you could see that that interest is just a means to a end. So not necessarily that is the goal, that's the end goal of the individual. So the end goal of the individual is really just to use that to get to a better place or something. But then my end goal is the fact that it is the people. So not it being a means to an end, but being the end goal itself. How do we relate to people if we find ourselves in organizations where people are putting up interests that are to their own gain, and at the same time it is looking, you speak about those values and they try to make you look, oh, you are wrong, this is how we do it. How do we, being such, that's not like a disagreement conflict, not really like a physical conflict where they're actually having to beat themselves, but have to do with values. How do we manage such situations when we find ourselves in it?
And that goes back to what I started off with saying, being self-confident, self-disciplined, and self-aware enough to recognize that you can be nice, agree to disagree, and walk away. Now, now there are times when I've had a conversation with somebody, and by their tone of voice and the way they're speaking to me, I immediately feel that they're more attacking me, that they seem to want to be argumentative as opposed to having a good dialogue, in which case I just have to walk away. I just have to agree to disagree and walk away. Again, there is no law that says you must stay engaged and get into an argument with someone, because that solves nothing. And I tell people in my de-escalation classes that people who are narcissistic, people who are egomaniacs, who feel like they have to win, who feel like they have the last word, who feel like they have to have the last comment or made their opinion known, they are going to struggle with conflict de-escalation, because they won't know when to just be quiet, and they won't know when to just disengage. And so I welcome you, and I encourage everyone to try to have a dialogue with someone, but at the same time recognize that it's going nowhere and break contact. If you and I were having a discussion right now and I could see that either one of us was very more argumentative. I'm so passionate about this that I'm not listening to you. You need to recognize, okay, you know what? This was a bad idea. We're going to just cut this feed right now. Okay. We have to be able to agree to disagree and walk away. And a lot of times it's you recognizing in yourself, this is going nowhere. I am happy to have a dialogue. I personally, over the last several years, in my entire life, I have had very good dialogue with people of racial issues in the United States, police brutality, police shooting. I have had good dialogue with people, but I've also begun conversations, or I've had some people try to begin conversations with me that I could immediately sense that they were more argumentative, that they wanted to attack me, they wanted to just vent. They weren't listening to what I had to say. They didn't want to hear my side of it. And so I would just break contact there, because there's nothing I can say that will make them change their mind right then and there. You're right. I'm not going to try, because I know from life experience and observations that when two people with strong opinions bump heads, that requires somebody in that moment to allow themselves to be vulnerable and to slow down. And a lot of times these people don't want to do that because of ego or whatever, or they're just so self-righteous that they don't want to hear someone else's opinion. And yes, you and I both know there are people like that.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is, when you encounter someone like that, you can be the change that you want to see by simply living a different lifestyle. Do not become argumentative. Do not engage. Agree to disagree and walk away, my friend. There's no reason to bump heads. There might be someone else who's better gifted than you to engage and talk to that person to make a difference. But it's not necessarily you. You have to recognize that you're not necessarily the one that's going to change their life, fix their problems, solve their issues, right? You have to let your ego and pride out of it. But I always encourage people, please take a moment to actually have a dialogue with someone who has a difference of opinion. Trust me, I know we can learn from each other. But when you come upon someone who is just so close-minded, well, find someone else to talk to then, because that person is not going to be the one to be able to have a good dialogue with.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, in honestly, I'm really enjoying this section. For me, I feel like these are realistic things we actually face in life, like realistic things we face in life. And this is one of the reasons why we do not have peace, because of sometimes leaders are not aware of these weaknesses, so which makes them even more worse, because of the fact that they're not aware of the fact that these are the skills they're meant to develop. So, in simple words, what are the skills do you think in your course of being a conflict resolver? What skills do you think individuals and the police should develop as individuals outside of the trainings, that the formal training that they've been given, and then natural things that people see? What skills do you think people should develop when it comes to conflict de-escalation?
What skill?
Yeah, skills like
Yeah,
exactly. Personal skills, interpersonal skills, maybe. I don't know, maybe emotional intelligence. I don't know. Do we have to take all of these things?
No. For individuals or specifically the public dealing with police?
Yeah, for individuals, at the same time, police dealing with the public as well. So it's separately.
Okay. The police need. Okay, we'll start with the police mentality, because I had to do this. You have to recognize that the public that you're dealing with is already dealing with fear and suspicion of you, and may already be angry at you. And so what can you say or do when you come make contact with the public and you're there because you really want to make a difference? And I tell the police officer, start with a smile, a friendly smile. When you arrive on scene, have a friendly smile, because you and I both know there are people out there that they just look angry all the time. Right? They just have this natural look and they just look angry all the time. Well, I tell people, have a smile on your face. You can always turn it serious depending on the situation, but start with the smile. When you arrive as a police officer, when you arrive on scene, hi, I'm Officer Riley. I understand you called. Can I help you? A friendly smile. Start with the smile. For the public, I want them to understand that not every police officer is susceptible to bribes and fraud and out to beat you and stuff like that. That there are good people who want to help. And so if you have grown up in a world where you mistrust the police and the military and all things government and stuff like that, okay, I understand that. And you're not necessarily going to change overnight, but I want to plant the seed today, right now, tonight in Nigeria, because it's 7 p.m. there. I want to plant the seed for you to recognize that, you know what? There are good people out there, and give them a chance, a little chance. If they blow it, well, then so be it. But give them the benefit of the doubt at first, and see how the situation goes. You might be very, very surprised, pleasantly surprised. So those are one of the skills, internal skills, that I think police officers and the public can try to develop. Is number one, recognize the situation that they're going into. Police officers, especially in Nigeria and especially here, and as a matter of fact, next week I go teach police officers. I tell all these police officers and anyone who's watching this, if you're a police officer, and especially in Africa, just recognize that people right off the bat, they're going to be suspicious of you, they're going to be angry with you, they're going to be frustrated with you, and they're going to be more angry that they had to call you in the first place. You know, everyone hates the police until they need the police, and then they even get, right? And then they get angry because they had to call the police, something that they swore they would never do. So as a police officer, when I went on scene, I always tried to be as friendly as I could right off the bat. More often than not, it helped begin to de-escalate the situation. Even if I had to end up arresting someone, even if it ended up going sideways and getting chaotic later, I always tried to start with a smile and start friendly, depending on the situation. But more often than not, I got out of my car with a big smile and a friendly greeting. Hi, how you doing? What's going on? What, you know, what can I do to help? And even saying those simple words can probably help a civilian, someone in the public, begin to tone down their anxiety. But if you as a police officer roll up onto the scene and you get out of the car and you just want to walk up there like you in charge, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen it. I've seen it. They walk up there because I'm in charge, and and in Africa you have your AK-47 rifle, and you act like you some tough bad guy. You know, that's the wrong impression. But if you arrive on scene, you have your rifle slung on your back, and you don't act hostile, aggressive, and you say, "Hi, I'm here to help you. What can I do? What is it?" Just how long did it take for me to say that? 3 seconds. 3 seconds to have a friendly greeting. I'm here to help. What can I do? And that could change the tone of the whole situation completely. And so back to the public, what can you do different? Recognize they're not all jerks. Recognize they're not all idiots. There are some good people who really want to help, and they just doing the best they can with what they have within the system that both of you are living in, and they're doing the best they can with what they have. There are people out there. I promise you, there are people out there who just want to help make a difference.
Wow. Thank you so much. You know, I think I've written about 3 notes right now. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful, you know. Honestly, I'm really grateful. I'm not just grateful for you accepting my invitation, but I'm grateful for being a leader that you are, because I feel like one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because of in Africa and in Nigeria, in West Africa as a whole, we've lost hope of what it feels like to have good governance. So we see a lot of young people conforming to the wrong notion of leadership. And I thought to myself, what can I do? So I try to invite leaders from different sectors who have different notion about what leadership really means, so that we have them live on Instagram, and then they hear them, and then it changes their mindset. So I want to say thank you very much for being the leader that you are. And last but not the least, the last question I'm going to ask right now before we end the section is, in few words, what would you say, and what advice would you give to young leaders out there, young people out there, globally, Africa, Europe? What advice, what do you want young people should know about what leadership is and what they should do, what you want them to know?
Number one, leadership, live by example. Live by example. Don't be one of those leaders who the attitude is do as I say, not as I do. I cannot stress that enough. You as a leader are the example and the model that everyone is looking up to. And if you do something stupid, if you accidentally or negligently do something stupid, then you need to own up to it and say, I did it, my bad, my mistake, I apologize. But if you start making excuses and you start blaming other people, you destroy your credibility. And so I would say for young people, future leaders, or anyone really for that matter, and leaders is, and you know what? Leaders is anybody who has an audience. You, my friend, are a leader. You have an audience. You need to live by example. You need to be that role model for everyone. So whether you're in government, a podcaster, a cook, people are watching you. They look at what you put on social media. They look at how you interact with people at the restaurant. People are watching you. And so I encourage leaders of all shapes and sizes of any nation, live by example, because people are depending on you to be the change that needs to happen.
Wow, I'm gonna clap. I'm gonna clap. Thank you so much, Mr. John. Thank you so.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna run for president now.
Yeah, very soon. I was very soon. And I would say very big thank you, honestly. And I'm hoping that one day probably we'll be in an organization where we have you physically coming even to Africa to actually teach leaders about how to actually manage this well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It would be my pleasure. I was born in Liberia, by the way.
Wow.
I was born in Liberia. Yes. My father was with the U.S. Embassy, and I lived in Kenya for 3 years in the 70s.
Wow.
I love Africa, my friend.
Wow.
I love Africa. When people ask me, what country, I lived around the world. When people ask me what country do I miss the most, I say Africa. East Africa. Going to the game parks and seeing, I cannot go to a zoo today because I cannot see the animals in a cage. I have seen them in the wild. I've seen lions hunt. I've seen cheetahs run. I miss it. I miss it. So I thank you. I thank you for the opportunity to have a chat with you, a little connection with Africa again, and maybe one day we can meet in person and when we'll share a couple laughs and so on.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Okay.
That's okay.
Bye, sir. Thank everyone for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.